Welcome to Talking Pixels. Thank you for stopping by. Today's episode is going to be on the RBI Baseball series. We'll be looking at the different games for the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis. Hey everyone, this time we're going to be talking about RBI Baseball. We're going to be talking about the first series that ran for about 7 games on the NES, Genesis, and Super Nintendo. This was at a weird point where baseball games and sports games were kind of teetering between being an arcade-style game or being a simulation game. Personally, I like the arcade-style ones of like Mutant Football League, Mutant League Football, and the NFL Blitz games. This is not really my cup of tea, but heck, I offered it up, so let's go ahead and check out the game. The RBI series was arguably one of the best sports game series for the NES. Once you get to the Sega Genesis, it kind of feels like it just blends into some of the other games. The Sega Genesis generally had better sports games than the Super Nintendo. I'm not really 100% sure why. I think that kind of has to do with mostly EA being angry with Nintendo and not wanting to sign licensing deals. We did eventually get one for the Super Nintendo, which feels a little bit out of place, but it is kind of a cool entry for the series. As the series progresses, you can see that they're going to add more teams, they're going to make the graphics a little bit better. In the first game, I kind of like the graphics because they feel a little bit more cartoonish like the NES. In the second game, you'll see they're a little bit more realistic. There's not really too much else to the game, it's really just baseball. They do get a few more features added into the games, especially in the Genesis version, where you see, the ability to play a season, the ability to play all the teams, the ability to play just half a season if you want, or a 7-game series. Well, the first game felt more like a Tecmo Bowl, where they just try to get as many things about the game into it as possible to kind of give you the idea or the feel of like playing a real game. The second game and later on, they try to move away from like the more arcade style of, Tecmo Bowl and try to get more towards a clear simulation of a game. I actually wish they would have stayed with a more arcade style just because those are the kind of games that I prefer. So after RBI Baseball 3, which I could not get to work for whatever frickin' reason, after that it switches over to the Sega Genesis. Now the graphics are going to go way up, and honestly I think the games are a lot better on the Genesis. There was one more game in Super RBI Baseball. I know I showed a picture of it earlier, but I couldn't get this one to work either. I honestly have no idea what the hell was going on. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that the games were broken, or the system was broken, or what it most likely was operator error. So while I was playing the Sega Genesis games, it seemed like I was getting better at batting, which was most likely just from practice of playing these. And the pitching seemed to be glitched for some weird reason that I'll go into in just a bit. So there were 3 games on the Sega Genesis, and these seem to add in like more historical teams to the game, which I kind of like, and they also added in the All-Stars. It's just something cool that they added in. It's sort of like in Super Tecmo Bowl where they added in the Pro Bowl teams. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is that none of these games had a MLB license. They had a Players Association license, which allowed them to have player names and that sort of thing. So all of the teams are basically known by the cities, and you might have the correct color schemes for them. It's kind of weird, but hey, it works. That's how the original Tecmo Bowl had it, and that worked out pretty well for that game. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I just found these games to be a lot easier than the NES versions. Maybe that was because Tengen was kind of hitting their stride, they had figured out what worked and what didn't, or maybe I was just getting better at them through practice. It was most likely through practice, because I just don't know how hard it would be for them to program the same basic game over and over again, and not really, fine-tune it as best they could. I like to think it was me getting better. I did see some mention of there being a Sega 32X game. I wasn't able to actually find that. I just sort of assumed that they didn't really do that one. I know that they did do the Super Nintendo game, and that's kind of where it just seemed to stop for whatever reason. I think one of the things that just makes these games a little bit easier is that they just seem to have weird glitches in them. Like I mentioned, you can, just pitch the ball straight at your opposing batter and he'll miss and you'll get a strike. It's just kind of weird the way they did that, but, hey, it worked out for me, and if the game's letting you do it, it can't really be cheating now, can it? So that's going to wrap it up, guys. I really did enjoy playing these. It's kind of weird because they're a little bit out of my comfort zone. I really haven't played a lot of baseball games or really like the simulation sports games in a while. I usually play them every so often on my PS4, and it just kind of gave me a lot of memories of going back to playing with a lot of my friends who just for some weird reason always rented sports games. They never seemed to rent anything else. Like the stuff that I wanted to play, they always just seemed to rent sports games. I don't know why. I did have one friend who would always rent RPGs, so it was kind of like a weird thing where some of my friends would only rent sports, and I had one friend who just rented RPGs. It was kind of crazy. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up, guys. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and have a great day, everyone.